In the early 1980s, something changed across many communities in southern Nigeria. For generations, wealth has been measured in land. The family with the largest compound was respected. The family with the most farmland was admired. The family with the greatest number of palm trees was considered successful. But people were beginning to notice something troubling. When old parents died, some children inherited everything, then sold everything. Family houses disappeared. Ancestral lands changed hands almost immediately. Palm plantations built over decades vanished within a few years. Entire family legacies collapsed. At the same time, another pattern emerged. Families with educated children seemed different. Their property survived. Their younger siblings went to school. Their parents received support in old age. Their family names grew stronger with each generation. Gradually, a new belief spread. The greatest inheritance was no longer land. It was no longer properties. It was education. The problem that education had become expensive. Very expensive. University fees, accommodation, books, transportation, feeding. For many families, a university admission letter was no longer good news. It was a burden. A painful burden at that, and a painful reminder of what they could not afford. Across the town of Ide, brilliant students were staying at home. Not because they failed examinations, not because they lacked ambition, but because poverty kept defeating them. Among those watching this tragedy unfold was a market woman named Mama Ije. She had no idea that one decision would eventually help create doctors, nurses, engineers, professors, entrepreneurs, lecturers, and so have you. She only knew one thing. Something had to change. Welcome to the African Archive, where the stories that shaped Africa's past are told to educate the future. Mama Ije was not rich. She was not a chief. She was not a politician. She was not the owner of a large business. She was simply a market woman. But every market day, she heard the same stories. My son got admission, but I cannot pay the fees. My daughter wants to become a nurse, but we cannot afford the school fees. The school fees is very demanding. There is no money. The stories never ended. And the pain felt personal because Mama Ije had experienced similar struggles herself. One afternoon, after market activities ended, she gathered several women beneath a large tree. Nobody recorded the meeting. There was no minute secretary. No newspaper reported it. Yet, the gathering would quietly change the future of the town of Ide. We may be poor individually, she told them, but together we are not poor. Some women laughed. Others doubted. Some women laughed. Others doubted. A few listened carefully. Then Mama Ije explained her idea. Every 4 market days, each woman will contribute whatever she can afford. No amount is too small. No amount is too embarrassing. The money will be pulled together, then lent to a woman facing a genuine need. Either school fees, hospital bills, business support, emergency expenses, or anything that really required money that the person cannot afford. The loans will be repaid gradually with a small interest. The women agreed. The first collection was disappointing. When the money was counted, some women shook their heads. It looked too small to change anybody's life. Then an admission letter arrived, and suddenly every coin mattered. The admission letter belonged to Emeka, a brilliant young man raised by his widowed mother, Mama Osa. He had gained admission into a polytechnic. The entire town celebrated. Teachers praised him for his brilliance. Neighbors congratulated him. His future seemed bright. Then reality arrived. School fees. The women counted their money. It was not enough. They counted again. Still not enough. The admission deadline was 3 days away. The women contributed everything they could. Still short. The atmosphere became hopeless. One woman finally spoke. "We have failed." Another nodded. "We tried our best." The meeting ended in silence. That night, Mama Ije sat alone. In front of her lay a carefully folded George wrapper, one of her most treasured possessions. She wore it during family celebrations. She wore it during naming ceremonies. She wore it during important events. It was not merely clothing. It carried memories. For a long time, she stared at it. Then she folded it into one final wrap. The next morning, she traveled to a neighboring town. By evening, the wrapper was gone. Sold. When the women gathered again, Mama Ije quietly placed the remaining balance before them. Nobody asked questions. Nobody knew where the money came from. Years later, they would discover the truth. But on that day, only one thing mattered. Emeka was going to school, and he has to go. The women celebrated. They thought they had won. They were wrong. The battle only begun. It is just the beginning. A year later, another crisis appeared. But this time, the meeting has taken a better momentum. Ngozi again gained admission into nursing school. Her father has worked for years to make that possible. Then tragedy struck. He died unexpectedly. Within weeks, relatives began discussing marriage. Without money, how could she continue with school? The future she had dreamed about seemed to disappear overnight. Then the Thrift Society intervened because her mother has been contributing. The women approved a loan. School fees were paid. Accommodations were secured. Ngozi remained in school. The future changed direction once again. Years later, patients would know her as Nurse Ngozi, but one, that she was simply a young woman. But on that day, she was simply a young woman rescued from poverty by market women who refused to surrender. Peter was not heading to a university himself. He was an apprentice mechanic, hardworking, disciplined, determined. After completing his apprenticeship, he needed money to establish his own workshop. The women approved a loan. Peter opened a small roadside repair business. Things looked promising. Then disaster struck. Flood water damaged equipment that he had just bought. Customers disappeared. Income collapsed. Repayment stopped. Panic spread throughout the society. Panic spread. Here, had they made a mistake? Had they lost their money? Months later, Peter adapted. He expanded into motorcycle repairs alongside the motor vehicles he was repairing. Then generator repairs. Customers returned. Income improved. Repayments resumed. Then crisis passed. The boy who once borrowed money eventually became one of the society's strongest contributors, because every 4 days, Peter was pulling everything together as he had no responsibilities at that time. The system was working. Also, they thought. By now, the Thrift Society has existed for years. The fund was larger than it had ever been. Children were graduating from universities. Families were improving. The future looked bright. The Okeke arrived. A respected trader, well-known, trusted, successful. He requested the largest loan ever issued by the thrift community. Some women objected. Mama Ije hesitated. But the majority approved. Months passed. No repayment. More months passed. Still nothing. Then, a shocking news spread through Ide. Okeke had disappeared. Gone. The money was gone. And so was the fund. Women cried openly. One widow fainted. Another woman screamed that his son's education has finished. Panic consumed the community. Years of sacrifice appeared wasted. Then something was happened. People began blaming Mama Ije. The very people she had spent years helping. Your idea has destroyed us. Look at what you have done. Everything gone. The words cut deeply. Mama Ije returned home that night and wept. For the first time, she considered giving up. An emergency meeting was called. Women arrived from every corner of Ide. Arguments began immediately. She demanded refunds. Some demanded refunds. Others demanded the society be dissolved forever. Hours passed. Nothing changed. Then the son disappeared. Darkness covered the gathering. One woman lit a lantern, then another, then another. Soon dozens of lanterns glowed beneath the tree. Still the arguments continued. Children slept on their mother's lap. Voices grew louder. Nobody wanted to leave. Then one woman shouted, "End it tonight." Many agreed. The atmosphere became heavy. For a moment, it seemed that everything Mama Ije built would disappear. Then she slowly stood. The lantern lights flickered across her face. She looked tired, older, and defeated, yet determined. Without raising her voice, she pointed towards Emeka. Now a graduate, she pointed towards Ngozi. This true society produced them. Now completing her nursing training, she's now serving as a nurse in Federal Medical Center. Peter has rebuilt her business from this meeting. Then she asked a question, a simple question. If we stop tonight, who will help the next child? Silence. Nobody answered. The lanterns crackled softly. Crickets sang in darkness. Then an elderly widow stood up. I will continue. Another woman stood up. I will continue. Then another woman stood up. We will continue. And by midnight, most of the women were standing. The true society survived, and with it, the future of countless children, even those yet unborn, was secured. The years that followed transformed Ide. Emeka graduated eventually, then secured employment with an oil company. Soon, he was paying school fees for younger siblings, then his cousins, then neighbors. Ngozi completed nursing school. She returned home, wearing her uniform. She was working in Federal Medical Center. Parents pointed her out to their daughters. Peter expanded his workshop, then hired apprentices, then opened a larger business. Every success created another success. Every graduate inspired another student. Every repayment funded another dream. The revolution was no longer hidden. The entire town could see it. Many years later, the community organized an anniversary of celebration. The hall was filled beyond capacity. Doctors, nurses, teachers, engineers, business owners, lecturers, entrepreneurs, civil servants. Many had traveled from distant cities. Mama Ije sat quietly in front row. She was now old. Her hair had turned grey. Her movements were slow. The chairman praised the achievements of the town. He praised the graduates. He praised the transformation of Ide. Then he paused and asked the question. Everyone whose life was directly or indirectly changed by this true society, please stand up. A few people rose, then more, then dozens, then entire rows. The standing continued. Doctors stood, engineers stood, teachers stood, business owners stood, nurses stood, lecturers stood. The hall kept rising. Mama Ije looked around in disbelief, and suddenly she understood. The women had never been collecting money. They had been collecting graduates. They had been collecting doctors. They had been collecting engineers, and they had been collecting teachers. They had been collecting entrepreneurs, and simply they did not know it. Tears filled her eyes because she finally saw what the older rapper had become. It had become degrees. Her judges, the judge that she sold at one night, had converted into a degree that have changed community. It has become careers. It has become opportunities. It has become future. And it had become generations. An entire town stood before her, and every standing person was part of her legacy. History often celebrates kings, politicians, generals, industrialists, but sometimes the people who change history look different. Sometimes they are market women. Sometimes they meet beneath trees. Sometimes they contribute only a few coins. And sometimes they build revolutions without realizing it. Long before microfinance bank became fashionable, long before development experts studied community finance, the women of Ide had already discovered something powerful. The future can be funded, one contribution at a time. And among those whose life were touched by this vision was yours truly, which is why this story is not merely a story. It is an act of gratitude, a reminder that poverty is powerful, but ordinary people working together can be even more powerful. And that is why I'm able to stand before you to tell this story today. I am a partaker of that legacy of Mama Ije, a personal partaker. That is the money I used to go to school. And that is how a group of market women quietly educated an entire Nigerian town. Welcome once again to the African Archives, where the stories that shaped Africa's past, are told to educate the future. Please like and follow us for more of these stories. Thank you.